So you have to think back to first semester. Oh, it was so long ago. First semester, you brainstormed, planned, and composed a rough draft of a narrative. Remember that? It's been a minute, but we're going to revisit that piece and finally turn it into a final draft. Okay? So I started this slide with this idea that writing is rewriting. Okay? You can't just write something, fart it out, and expect that it's going to be really good, right? Like everything, you have to go back and make changes to shape something into something you're very proud of and that somebody would really enjoy reading. So, that's what we're going to do now. This long break from this piece was purposeful. I did this on purpose, okay? You've read and written a lot since you first drafted that. In reading and writing, which we do every day in my class, naturally help you become a better writer. So you've done a lot of that since then. So now as you reread it, you'll be able to sympathize with your reader because you'll be laying fresh eyes on what you wrote a while back. You may notice a lot of technical errors and you might be unhappy with how you set about telling your story. So maybe things are in a weird order or you left out some major important information and so things don't make very much sense. You're going to be able to see that now since you've spent some time away from this story that you wrote. Good writers always picture those who will read their writing. Always picture your reader when you write. And good writers are not afraid to make major changes to your writing. As I said before, you can't just fart out a draft and think it's going to be really good, okay? You have to go back and rewrite, okay? And that's what this is all about. It's time to learn about revision and editing, which are two different things, by the way, and you'll learn all about that in this playlist. So, Learning Target 1.6, by the end of this playlist, you will be able to say this: I can revise and edit my writing. As always, remember, use and reuse any of the resources in this playlist to help you master this target, okay? Proficiency scale. How can you make the grade? Well, to get a 3, a passing grade, you can make significant changes to a draft in order to improve the clarity of the writing and to increase the reader's enjoyment of the piece. So for the purpose of this, I'm your reader, so I will be the judge of that. But before I'm the judge of that, you need to be the judge of it yourself. That's why, as I keep saying, and I will say it throughout this whole playlist, you need to imagine your reader. Put yourself in their shoes, okay? To get a higher grade, you need to be able to do that and also explain your reasoning behind your major revisions. So you need to be able to make big changes and explain why you did it. Explain how those changes make your writing better, basically. Okay? Now let's talk about how to get a 5, how to get to the top, how to get an A. You need to be able to do all of this that you did for a 3, all of this for a 4, and you will publish your piece when it's finished by submitting it to the Scholastic Writing Competition. And you must have selected your writing category from the approved list. Again, if you think back to first semester, when you first started brainstorming for this piece, I directed you to this list, but you can click on it afresh. You can click on that link and it'll tell you what that writing competition is, how to submit work to it, which categories they're looking for, which is what the approved list is. So you would just need to see where your piece of writing falls into, if you haven't already decided that first semester. And then you need to follow through. Once your piece is done and polished, you will submit it to this writing competition. And hey, who knows? You could win some money. Okay, so here's a very brief overview of what you're going to learn in this playlist. And of course, as always, I break all of this down in detail in the playlist itself. But just a preview, quick preview, if you're preparing to revise and edit a draft of your own writing, here's what you do. Number 1, read it with fresh eyes. Imagine that you are your reader, a person who does not know this story at all. Okay? You always need to imagine, if I didn't know anything, okay, about these characters or real people, if you wrote about a real story that happened to you, if you didn't know anybody involved and you didn't know what happened, would this make sense? Is basically what you're imagining. As you read, number 2, take note of what about your writing would confuse your reader. Make changes accordingly. Okay, so maybe, as I said before, maybe you kind of actually told your story a little bit out of order, or maybe you left out some details that would make other things make sense that you need to go back and add in. Or maybe you ramble on and on about something that's unimportant and that needs to be cut out. So whatever it is that would confuse your reader or make the piece less enjoyable for them to read, you need to make changes so that those problems are gone. And then 3, read through your piece again and find and change any spelling, grammatical, mechanical errors that you find and make changes accordingly. Those are very distracting, okay? And of course I'm going to teach you some tips and techniques for how to find and correct those changes. And then number 4, repeat, 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 okay? So this process is a process, and it's not just something you're going to breeze through once over and then you're done. You are trying to create a beautiful draft that you are super proud of and that other people will enjoy, okay? Always think about your audience and have them in mind when you are not only writing in the first place, but especially when you're revising in this step and making edits. So, this is what you get to look forward to in this playlist.